It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Stanislaus County today, part of our roadshow on California Edition, and we are joined by Karen Williams. She is the Executive Director of the Stanislaus Literacy Center, also known as Learning Quest. I'm flummoxed when I hear there are adults in America, in California, in the Central Valley, that can't read, and I'm not criticizing them. I just tell me about it.
Well, actually, the statistics are pretty staggering. In our area, 25% of people that were tested for jobs, so this was 2 manufacturing firms that did the testing, 25% read at or below a 4th grade level.
Fourth grade.
4th grade level. So
25%. You're near a university, CSU Stanislaus, UOP, Sac State, Fresno State. I mean, you don't have to go to college to read, but I mean, education is brimming in this community, in this valley.
Yeah, but you have people who, and this isn't all second language learners, that's one of the mixes, but that's not the only thing.
But still, let's say, for example, you are a primary Spanish speaker, same alphabet.
Yeah.
Can you read in Spanish? No, they can't read in Spanish.
Right. So we've tried to help them, and we use volunteers who meet with them individually and give them that one-on-one attention. If they've gone to school, they had really bad experiences in school.
Are a lot of these folks? I mean, I guess with the study, if they're applying for manufacturing, it's not in this subset. But I can imagine if you work in the fields, in ag, there's a chance that you didn't have the educational opportunities. Right. Maybe you're an itinerant worker, you've come up, you've stayed. Is that what you're saying, some?
Well, there's some of that,
right.
But then there's this whole other population that just didn't learn it. Here's some of the reasons. If they didn't learn to read by 2nd grade, then they didn't know what to do with them in schools, because now they're supposed to be able to read. So they put them in special ed, and they just stay there, and they don't ever learn to read in special ed, at least the people I'm talking to in their 30s and 40s. So that's one aspect. If they moved a lot and nobody really was keeping track of them, they either didn't go to school at all or rarely, or when they did go to school, they didn't really have a chance to learn anything before they moved to another school. Some of them have learning disabilities and make it harder to process and harder to learn. They can do other things really well. They're usually very artistic or very mechanically oriented, but they maybe don't read well. So they just need extra help to get there.
What makes me angry is that you're really busy. And and you're really busy, but for a reason. We know that there have been programmatic cuts for adult education in the state of California. During the recent economic downturn, those were the programs that were cut in favor of not cutting K-12 as much.
Exactly. And it's a tragedy that happened with a stroke of a pen in 2008. To help schools was the reason given. The governor decided to make all adult education funding take the strings off, do what you want with it, school districts.
I see.
So school districts mostly chose to then just stick it in their general fund, help their K-12 system eliminate or almost totally eliminate their adult education. It happened all over the state. It happened in our valley, in our county, and it was a terrible tragedy. Thousands of seats of where people could go and learn were lost, and yet they don't have a voice to go and say, hey, I lost my education opportunities, and so nobody even knew it was happening.
So we're on the other side of the recession. Is the funding being restored? Not so
yet.
much.
Not yet. What they did, here's what the state decided to do, was study it for 2 years. And so they gave some money to study it, but that's all you can use the money for.
There was an issue with transferring. Weren't they looking at whether to transfer adult ed to K-12 from community college? Am I saying that right?
The opposite.
They
were looking at changing it from school districts
that's what it is,
to community college.
Right, which makes some sense in a sense.
And a lot of states do it that way, just to be fair. So what they decided to do was have the K-12 system and the community college system get together and talk about how they could work together better and how adult education could be delivered at both places. And so, but they gave them money to study it for 2 years rather than solve the problem. And then we still don't know what's going to happen with the study that's being done right now. if they're going to fund it. Nobody knows the answer to that.
Aside from helping adults to read, you also offer ESL services, English
Yes.
as a second language. How are those services? Are you really busy there as well?
Oh my gosh, yes.
So busy.
Yes. Okay, I'll give you an example of what happened to Modesto City Schools. Used to offer 23 ESL classes in the community.
Got it.
After that funding change, they started offering 3. Ooh. So there's a lot of people who now don't have classes. We really did not, we kept everything we had, but we didn't really expand because we didn't have the money to do it. So we would only open up a waiting list twice a year, and we would just tell people call in May for the classes starting in September. So in 2 weeks, we would fill up with 250 names, so we'd stop the list.
You know,
so I can't even tell you the depth of the problem.
I'm angry again because here we are, where there's a lot of rhetoric on both sides about immigration reform and you should speak English. And
exactly.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. I don't necessarily disagree, but if we can't even offer them the ability.
And they're not looking at funding that. They're looking at all these other things to fund, but nobody's talking about how do we deliver ESL classes in our communities. Nobody's
And these are adult
addressing that.
ESL. I mean,
Yes,
K-12, it does
adult
seem
ESL.
as if there is sufficient ESL programs.
Yeah, they have a method for dealing with that. But these are their parents. And these parents could be teaching their preschoolers English before they ever get to the school system.
I have to tell you, so I speak English, I speak some French, it's not as good as it used to be. I'm trying to learn Spanish. It's really hard to learn language in your 40s. I mean,
It really
and I
is.
can't imagine you're not seeing that as well. I mean, these are individuals. I mean, how do you help me out? Can I have Spanish as a second language? Because it's killing me.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you focus on the language acquisition when they're in their 30s and 40s?
Yeah, we have some really great curriculum that we use. In fact, I decided to teach a class as a volunteer, and so it's been really fun. And this curriculum is wonderful for teaching them English. It's really about the spoken word because that's what they need. That's the life skill they need, is just to be able to speak it. You work a little bit on reading and writing, but you mainly work on speaking it. And
I want to also ask about GED, the high school equivalency. I recently spoke with the Stanislaus superintendent. He had mentioned, and I was aware, that high school dropouts are dropping, which is great news. But
it is great news.
Still, I mean, about 20% are not graduating from high school, and then if you break it out demographically, the numbers are a little skewed. And so talk to us about your GED program.
Well, yeah, there are about 75,000 just in our county who don't have their diploma. Okay,
That's a lot.
Age 25 to 60.
And it's a county of 500,000.
And you're not going to get a job without it. So that's a big need. So yes, we do provide that. We provide it. We get funding from Welfare to Work. We provide it for all of the Welfare to Work recipients that they send our way. We provide it for the dislocated workers that lost their jobs. Think about it. We had a student, in fact, he had been at Hershey's for 30 years when it closed. And he didn't have to have his high school diploma when he got that job, but he could not get a job after that without it. And so here he is in his 50s without a diploma, and he's not going to get a job.
What do you need to get the GED?
Well, it's actually, you're getting the diploma and you're passing a test called the GED to get the diploma.
I understand. So what does that test require? Forgive me, I'm interested.
Okay, they just changed the test. It's really hard now compared to what it used to be.
Would I pass it?
I don't
know if I'd pass the math.
I would pass the math.
Right,
I
that's
for sure
the
don't
issue.
think I'd pass the math. It is all on computer, and so that's hard
That's
for
a
some
challenge,
people
right?
because a lot of people who come to us don't own a computer, so
right.
they have to learn from the very beginning how to use a computer. So that's the number one challenge. Then they have to learn really good writing skills because they have to be able to write long essay question answers kind of thing. Another thing that's new with this test is before, everything you needed to know to answer the questions was on the page. That's the old test. The new test, that's not true. You have to have prior knowledge. So now we have to teach them science. We have to teach them photosynthesis and biology and chemistry and all that kind of stuff.
Her name is Karen Williams. She is the executive director of the Stanislaus Literacy Center, also known as Learning Quest on Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.